welcome to another Ogre video tutorial. My name is Brittany McCorriston, and today we're going to be discussing writing for bells, how to get your ideas on paper. We're going to be talking about different arranging techniques used in music, and then we're going to go ahead and analyze some music, looking at how these techniques are used, and then at the end I will leave you with a piece of music that I arranged that you can analyze for yourself, and I'll be challenging you to identify some of the techniques that we discussed today. This tutorial will use a bit of music theory, but I'm going to try my best to explain the terms as they come up. And we're going to try a bit of a looser format today than I usually do, and so if you enjoy it, let me know. As always, if you have any questions, stick around for the live discussion afterwards, or you can always send me an email, which I will provide at the end of this video. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to do is just go over some basic terms. The first thing is the words composer versus arranger. These words are often used interchangeably, but they're actually quite different. So with a composer, that is someone who creates original ideas and works, and this can be in the form of melody, chord progression, song lyrics, kind of fall under that realm. And these are all, again, original ideas that were kind of that are unique to that individual or that experience, or a group of people if they're composing together. An arranger is someone who takes those ideas and uses them and arranges them into either a specific instrumentation, a specific ensemble, a specific style, and they it goes hand in hand. Often composers work with arrangers, and sometimes arrangers work by themselves, and that would be, that's often what we see with handbell music, where it's someone who takes something that has already been composed, it could be a hymn or a really simple melody, and then they kind of tweak it and arrange it either for a different instrumentation or a different style, or there's a ton of different stuff that you can do in arranging, and we won't get into all of them, but we will go over a couple. So the first thing that I want to just talk about is just basic arranging techniques. These are ones that you kind of see throughout all music, not just handbell music. People write arrangements all the time, and I really like doing it because you can kind of take a piece, and if it doesn't quite fit what you need, you can make it fit, or you can just get really creative with it, taking something into a different style, a different genre. That's what I really like doing. So what I'm talking about is, let's say we have the melody Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and I have a keyboard in front of me. You can't see it, but you'll be able to hear it. So Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. We all know it, right? Now, that is just kind of your basic melody, right? But you can go ahead and you can add broken chords to it. So now I kind of just changed the arrangement. I added a chord progression. Well, I could also change the key. I could add different fills. I could add harmony. That was a really poor harmony, but I hope you get the point there. You could add dynamics, loud to soft. You can change the structure, which we're going to talk about a bit later. There's a lot of different things that you can do, and this is why arranging is so much fun. So what we're going to be doing is analyzing a handbell piece and kind of picking out some of the different things that this arranger has chosen to use, some of these different tools. And a lot of arranging is just kind of adding different things to your toolbox. And I really like analysis because it kind of helps you to think critically and listen. And as you're listening to different pieces of music, you can hear, oh, they did this here, or oh, they did that. And so kind of being able to put words to some of these different techniques has been really helpful for me, because when I'm stuck for ideas or I'm arranging a new piece, I can just kind of go back to my toolbox. There are certain ones that I really like to use, and there's other ones that are just really common and good to know about. So let's go into that a bit deeper. All right, so I've loaded up this piece. It's called Hymn of Promise, and the music is by Natalie Sleeth, and it's arranged by Cynthia Dobrinsky. I've played this quite a few times in my various choirs, and I just really love it. I've always really liked the melody, and in this particular arrangement, there's just a ton of different techniques used that really keep it interesting. So one of the most basic things in arranging is we always say as arrangers is to keep it interesting, you gotta change it up every 4 bars. After 4 bars, things get boring, things get really stagnant. The longest you wanna go with a particular idea is like maybe 8, but really 4. So in this piece, you'll notice, if you pay really close attention, that something does change almost every 4 bars. It's not always the same. It could be a change in the accompaniment, a change in the melody, maybe a counter melody is added, but something does always change. And so as we go through this, I really encourage you to kind of look for that. I'll just be playing sections of it, but also I highly encourage you to just take a listen to it on your own and kind of pick out what you're doing. So with the intro, and I've marked some things in here that I'll talk about. So we have first off we have the intro, and it's pretty simple. The intro, I've listened to a couple different arrangements, both like with bells, singers, vocalists, choirs. The melody here, which is mostly like stems up, is pretty similar. But let's go through and play the verse. So I have marked in some of the chord progressions. So if you do know music theory, here they are. The top one is your actual chord, and then the bottom one here is your Roman numeral analysis. I like to mark in my 2-5-1 patterns a lot, just so you can hear it. And so that is with a bracket, and then your fifth or root motion, which is from going your dominant to your tonic. I mark it in with an arrow. All right, so here we go. Let's listen to the first verse. Alright, so there's the first verse, and let's go back up to the top. So the first thing that you want to notice is the melody, and it was introduced relatively simply. So it's really just the melody. There's no embellishment to it. So that's the first 8 bars. And then the bass pattern is also fairly simple, where you have, I like to call them umpas, and so you just have on 1, this piece is in 3/4, but you just have it on 1 and 2. So you have and then here's where we changed it up. So this is after 8 bars. We have the melody again. The melody continues, actually. It is a 16-bar melody, but it's in 6 this time. And 6 are actually really, really common as a way to what we call embellish the melody. They're just really great, like harmonically. They just always sound really good together. Another really common interval that we use are thirds. And you'll often see is, and even you'll see it a little bit here in the second line, is the thirds with the 6s switching back and forth. And then we go into the interlude here for 8 bars, and we have something that is a call and response. So we have this idea that's kind of played with bells, and you can see it starts, there's always a pickup in these songs, in this particular melody, and then it moves into the thumb dance. But it is just the same thing. just an octave higher. Just a fair warning, I don't know why I'm notorious at forgetting the A flats whenever I play this, so just excuse anytime I play an A natural by mistake. It's going to happen more than once. But yeah, so we have this really cute call and response for a couple bars. And then we get into the second verse. And what is one thing to note is the structure just in general. We kind of go verse, interlude, verse, interlude, verse, interlude. And you can always change that, and I'm often encouraged to do so by my teachers, and I often do, just because if it's a song that everyone knows, then it's really fun to kind of just change it up and mix it up a bit. I do typically try and stick to a 4-bar structure because that is what our ears are kind of used to, but adding in an extra chorus, switching a verse, putting in a bridge, those are all things that are totally up to you when you're writing. So in the verse 2 here, the melody changes octave. So we had it up here, and now it's down here. And we also have this little counter melody going on. It goes on throughout it, but it's in thumb damps, but I'll just play it on the piano. And what's cool about this one is that sometimes with this one, it could really stand alone by itself. And we have this term that we call like fills. And sometimes what you'll often hear in melodies is that you have a melody, and then when they're resting, you'll put in a fill with a different instrument. But in this case, we actually have a counter melody that can stand alone by itself as its own melody. So let's give that a listen, and just that entire second verse. Alright, so that was the second verse. And so, like I said, we had the melody changing octaves, and we had the bass accompaniment, and we had that counter melody in there. And then we go into, after that, we go into another interlude, and this is exactly the same as the beginning, but instead of going back to a verse like we've been doing, we've had verse, interlude, verse, interlude. After this one, instead of going directly into that verse, we have something called a deceptive resolution, which leads into a modulation. And so a deceptive resolution refers to, in particular, a chord progression. And so what it is typically speaking in music, we have 5 chord, and that is the fifth of the scale that we're in. So we're in E flat major. So in this case, it's B flat, or also known as the dominant. And the dominant always likes to go back to home, which is 1, the E flat. In a deceptive resolution, we don't go to E flat, or we don't go back to home, we go somewhere else. And so what happens in the interlude is, instead of going back to home and starting a new verse, we're going to go to the 3 in the key of E flat and start a modulation into a new key. And so this modulation here, we're going to be going into F major. It happens 3 bars later, which is also, this is where the composer breaks form away from the 4 bars and uses 3 bars to modulate. And with that also, it's not just a deceptive resolution, it's also a pivot chord. And this is my theoretical analysis of it, how I see it. Someone else could analyze it slightly differently. And I am getting a bit nerdy here, but I really like this modulation, so we're going to go with it. So we have a pivot chord, meaning that this chord exists in both keys. Both the old key, it's the 3, and in the new key it's the 2. So it's a G minor 7 chord, and we have in our new key we'll look at it's G minor 7 to a C sus to a C7, which are both dominant chords, going to your new key of F major. So that kind of sounds like, aside from that, you have G minor 7, C sus, C7, and I'll add the B flat in there just so that you can hear that. So B flat, G minor 7, and so that kind of sound, that deceptive sound of instead of going from B flat to E flat, you have your B flat to G minor. And so that is something that is really different, but it's we use it to kind of try and keep things interesting. The other thing here is that we're modulating up a half step. So we're going from E flat, sorry, we're modulating a step. That is wrong here, ignore that. We're going a whole step. E flat up to F. And this is really common, either a half step or a whole step. You see it a lot in musical theater, but very common at the end of pieces, right before the last chorus. You also kind of hear it termed the lift, meaning, and it's just meant to bring some excitement, something different to the pieces right at the end. As you listen to different music, I really encourage you to see if you can hear that. It's really, really common to go up either a half step or whole step right in the last chorus of pieces, or the second last chorus. So let's go ahead and listen to what that modulation sounds like. Alright, so that was our modulation. Now that we're in F, I won't play this one, but I encourage you to listen to it at home. We have the melody, but this time in triadic harmony, which just means that we're in triad, so in thirds, but they're in different inversions. So there's 3 notes in each one. And then after that, it will go into some more 6s and thirds. And then we have the outro, and something that I wanted to outline here is a technique that we call augmentation, meaning that this is the first time that the melody is altered a bit and we're moving into 4/4. And augmentation is like that lengthening of a melody or of a progression. It's making it longer than whatever the originally composed thing is. And it's really, really good to create just something different, new excitement. If you speed something up, the opposite of that is called diminution. And that's also a really common technique. Or anticipation as well is when you anticipate a beat and you shift something, either an 8th note forward or a 16th note forward, depending on the style. But here we have an example of augmentation, so I'll just play the outro for you. Alright, so that was our analysis of the piece Hymn of Promise. And I encourage you again just to go through it and listen to it for a second time all the way through and pick out even more stuff from. I just kind of covered some of the ones that stood out to me or the techniques that I really like to use when I'm writing. but something else may stick out for you, and that can be something that you add to your toolbox. So I really encourage you to go back and listen to it. As I had said before, analysis is just such an important thing to do if you're trying to step into the arranging realm, or even just when you're learning music, because it helps you to see kind of what's going on, and then you can play it better. So whenever I'm doing any type of analysis, the first thing I always do is ask myself, where's the melody? And how is it being embellished? Or how is it being played? If it's not handbell music, what instrument is it being played on? Why is it standing out more than everything? Because that's always the thing that we want to be heard. So asking yourself those questions is, what is the arranger or composer doing to make sure that that is happening? And then I might ask myself, what is the harmony? I typically do transcribe a lot of things, but if you are not able to do that right away, or you don't have a piano background, you can always just look up the chords. It's pretty easy nowadays to just kind of find the chords online. Sometimes they're wrong, so just be critical of it, but analyzing the chord progressions and then comparing them to different chord progressions as well, you'll find some are really common, like that 5-1 that we saw and we talked a lot about. Is you'll see it everywhere. Everything always wants to go back to home, so you'll often see the end of phrases, the end of songs will all have that dominant to tonic resolution. And then the third thing I kind of ask myself is, what's going on in the counterlines and the bass line? Is anything else happening? Is there a drum part, and what groove are they playing? For me personally, when I'm doing arranging, I always think about style, and so our style is what we see at the top of pieces, and it might say andante, or slowly, or march-like, or there's a bunch of different things, right? And so for me, I always love to play around with that style and what it was originally and take it into something new. So what I'm going to be playing for you next, and it will conclude this session, is just an arrangement that I did about a year ago now for one of my classes. And it is an arrangement of this song, You've Got a Friend in Me. It's from the movie Toy Story, so I'm hoping it's familiar. If it's not, then listen to the original as well. And what I really encourage you to do here is listen for what is different, what is the same, what have I done to keep it interesting, and being able to put those things into words. Is it, oh, there's a new instrument here, or there was a key change, or there was a change in tempo. There can be a bunch of different things, and if you can't put words to it right away, like musical terms, just use regular words. I heard a new texture. I heard a new instrument. I don't know what that instrument is, but I heard something different. And pay attention to when that happens and how it happens. That is the end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, let me know. You can always email me at virtualhandbellproject@gmail.com. That's the one that I'm using for all the handbell stuff right now. And in addition, I'll also be putting up a page of just some of the terms that I used today and some of the definitions. It's not all of them, but it's just a basic list that can get you going when you are starting to arrange something and just start building up that toolbox that we kind of talked about.
You got a friend in me. just remember what your old pal said, son. You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. You've got troubles, I got them too. There isn't anything I wouldn't do for you. We'll sit together and we'll see